Have you ever noticed that you're exhausted, but nothing is actually wrong? Like your body feels tired, your mind feels foggy, but your life isn't on fire. There's a reason for that, and it has nothing to do with motivation, discipline, or even mindset. This is one of those questions that sounds simple until you actually sit with it for 5 minutes. And then you realize most of humanity has been quietly mixing two completely different things together, like salt and sugar, and wondering why the cake just tastes weird. Well, of course, unless you're making salted caramel, that's a different recipe altogether. Well, here's my promise for today, and I'll say it simply. If you really understand the difference between consciousness and thought, mental fatigue starts to make sense. Brain fog stops feeling mysterious, and exhaustion stops feeling like a personal failure. So I'm not guessing at this. I've watched it play out and happen in my own body over and over. And I'm going to show you how to notice it for yourself, not believe it, and definitely not memorize it. And we're going to do it without turning this into philosophy homework. Because consciousness isn't an idea, it's the thing you're already using to hear these words. So let's get the simple difference out of the way first. Consciousness is the field. Thoughts are events inside the field. See, most people reverse that without ever realizing they did. Consciousness is the capacity to be aware at all, the fact that experience is happening. Thoughts are just one type of content that appears inside that awareness, the same way sounds do, or sensations, or emotions, or even memories. And here's the quiet giveaway that usually gets bypassed. If a thought can be noticed, it cannot be the thing that's noticing. That sounds obvious once you hear it, but most people have never actually checked. So let's do a quick check right now. Just notice your breathing for 1 second. No technique, just notice it. Now notice the thought that shows up. Maybe it comments on the breathing itself. Maybe it's saying something like, I'm doing this right, or I'm distracted, or what's the point of this? Now notice the next thought. So here's the real question. What is noticing the thoughts? It's not another thought, because if it were, you'd need yet another thought to notice that one, and then another to notice that. And pretty soon you'd be trapped in an infinite Russian doll of commentary. And that doesn't happen. So what's noticing is stable. It's already there before the thought shows up. And it's still there after the thought leaves. That's consciousness. Thoughts, on the other hand, are mechanical. They're not bad, they're just factual. They're pattern-based responses generated by memory, conditioning, your language, your identity, and even survival wiring. They arise automatically. You don't decide what your next thought will be any more than you decide what the next cloud will be that drifts across the sky. And this is the part most people miss completely. See, thoughts don't require awareness to exist. They only require momentum. You can think without being conscious in any meaningful sense. That's called mental autopilot, or rumination, or doom scrolling. That's, replaying conversations in the shower. Thought, thinking thought, without anybody actually being home. Consciousness doesn't do that. Consciousness doesn't rush. It doesn't argue. It doesn't try to fix itself, and it doesn't need improvement. It's the background condition that allows experience to happen at all. And this is why meditation gets misunderstood so badly. See, meditation isn't about stopping thoughts. Thoughts will stop on their own when the conditions change, the same way waves settle when the wind drops. Meditation is about noticing that awareness is still here even when thoughts quiet down. And once you see that, something uncomfortable but very liberating shifts, connects. You don't live inside your thoughts. Your thoughts live inside you. The confusion comes from identification. So somewhere early on, we learned to point to that inner narrator and say, yeah, that's me. The voice became mistaken for the listener. It's like confusing the radio for the room it's playing in. When that identification loosens, thoughts don't disappear, they just lose authority. They're seen as information, not identity, more like suggestions than commands, more like weather passing through than the sky itself. And this is where mental fatigue starts to make sense. See, mental exhaustion isn't mysterious, and brain fog isn't a flaw. It's overhead. It's the cost of running constant narration. The soul doesn't get tired. The body does when it's asked to live through narration instead of direct contact. Narration's expensive. Every single thought pulls in memory, prediction, emotion, identity, language, time. And the body pays for that metabolically and neurologically, whether we notice it or not. So, when there's a massive news cycle or personal drama or just nonstop inner commentary, the system is burning energy just to keep a story coherent. Not accurate, just coherent. And those are very different goals. See, a thought can be true without being the truth. Thought frames reality, it doesn't actually reveal it. And when that framing runs nonstop, the system eventually just says, I'm done. And that's when fog shows up. That's when exhaustion hits. Not because you're shattered or broken, but because you're overloaded with commentary. And this also explains something people notice but don't usually connect. See, peace shows up the moment thoughts drop out of the driver's seat. Not eventually, instantly. You see it in meditation, in breath work, in creative flow, in sports, in working with your hands, even in something as simple as washing dishes. When you're actually consciously washing dishes, in all those moments, narration collapses because it's no longer useful. And here's the important detail that I used to miss. You didn't stop thoughts, they just became irrelevant. That's the part most people don't catch because peace doesn't come from suppressing thought, it comes from outgrowing its usefulness in that moment. When consciousness is fully engaged with what's real, narration quiets on its own because it has nothing to add. It's like a sports commentator losing their job once you're actually on the field. This is also why people chase extreme experiences. Not because they're thrill seekers, but because those moments temporarily free them from self narration. High speed, high focus, high presence. Thought would actually get you hurt, so it steps aside. And what's left isn't unconsciousness, it's hyperconsciousness, which brings us right back to exhaustion. Because most people are tired because they're living indirectly. They're experiencing life through narration instead of contact. Thought heavy living is exhausting because it's delayed, it's symbolic, and it's recursive. Conscious living feels calmer because it's immediate. And here's the irony that always makes me smile. People say they use sports or art or meditation to clear their mind. What they're really doing is returning authority to consciousness. Thought didn't disappear, it just stopped pretending to be in charge. So thought is a great tool, it just makes a terrible identity. When sugar knows it's sugar, and salt knows it's salt, the recipe finally works. Salted caramel is still optional. And the last thing I'll leave you with is simple. Consciousness has never been missing, attention just wandered off. Thoughts love to take credit for the room they appear in. Consciousness never bothers connecting them, it doesn't need the recognition. It was here before the first thought showed up, and it'll be here long after the last one runs out of things to say. Thank you.